All right, let's talk about something that drives developers crazy. The dreaded waiting game with AI agents. You know the drill. Your app just freezes. Well, today we're going to dive into how you can build super responsive, non-blocking agents using asynchronous processing in Amazon Bedrock and get rid of that problem for good.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll talk about why that waiting game even happens. Then we'll get into the solution, going asynchronous. We'll look at the specific tool for the job, Bedrock Agent Core, dig into the code, and see it in action. And finally, we'll wrap up with the key things you need to remember and a few common traps to avoid.
Okay, let's set the scene. You've built this awesome agent, right? You ask it to do something big, like generate a complex report, and then nothing. The entire application just locks up. You get the spinning wheel of death, the UI is totally frozen, and your user is sitting there thinking your app is broken. That right there is the waiting game problem.
I mean, we've all been there, haven't we? You tell the agent to summarize a huge document, and suddenly your whole interface is held hostage. You can't click anything, you can't type, you're just stuck. This is what's called a blocking operation, and frankly, it's a terrible user experience. The agent is working hard, but it's keeping your app in a headlock until it's done.
But here's the good news. We don't have to live like this. There is a much smarter way to handle these big tasks. It's called asynchronous processing, and it's all about letting your agent do its heavy lifting in the background so your app and your user are always free.
This slide lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got the old synchronous way. It's like being in a single-file line. You ask, you wait, you get your answer, you're stuck. But on the right, the asynchronous model is a total game changer. You send your request, and the agent instantly replies with something like, "Got it, I'm on it." Then it gets to work in the background while you're completely free to do other things.
You know, the best analogy is ordering coffee at a busy cafe. You don't just stand at the counter and stare at the barista, right? Of course not. You place your order, they hand you one of those little vibrating buzzers, and you go find a seat. The task of making your coffee is brewing in the background. When it's ready, that buzzer goes off and you go grab your drink. That, in a nutshell, is async processing.
And this is where it gets really powerful. You can now kick off some seriously heavy-duty tasks, things that could take minutes or even hours. Think about analyzing a giant video file. Your user gets an immediate confirmation, making the app feel incredibly snappy and responsive, while all that tough work just hums along behind the scenes, exactly where it belongs.
So that's the what and the why. Now for the how. How do we actually pull this off inside Amazon Bedrock? Well, the answer is a very neat toolkit called the Bedrock Agent Core SDK.
Now the key phrase to grab onto here is unified API. What that really means for you, the developer, is you get one set of tools for everything. You don't need a separate system for quick jobs and another one for long jobs. It dramatically simplifies your code and, let's be honest, your life.
And getting started is about as easy as it gets. It's just one simple command in your terminal. That's it. That's your ticket into building these much more sophisticated agents.
All right, let's pop the hood and get into the real nuts and bolts. We're going to look at the key functions you'll use and how the system keeps track of what your agent is up to. The first function you absolutely need to know is add async task. This is your start button. When your agent is about to begin a long-running job, you call this. You're basically telling the system, hey, I'm kicking off a background job right now. Start tracking it for me.
And, of course, every start button needs a stop button, or in this case, a finish button. Once your background process is all done, you call complete async task. This is you raising your hand and telling the SDK, okay, that job is officially complete. This is crucial for managing the agent status correctly.
So how does your application know if the agent is free or swamped? It just asks. There's a special little address called the /ping endpoint that acts like a status report. If it responds with healthy, that means the agent is just chillin', ready for work. But if it says HealthyBusy, well, it's just that, healthy but busy. It's working on something in the background, so you know not to interrupt it. Okay, I need everyone to listen to this because this is the #1 mistake. Do not put long-running, blocking code in your main entry point. Why? Because if your main process is frozen, it can also freeze the /ping health check. So your agent might be working its tail off, but to the outside world, it looks like it's crashed, and the system might just shut it down.
All right, enough theory. Let's see what this looks like in practice. We're going to walk through a real code example piece by piece so you can see how it all fits together.
First up, the setup. This should look pretty familiar. We're just importing the libraries we need, threading, time, and the important stuff from Strands and Bedrock Agent Core.
The most important line, though, is that last one. App equals Bedrock Agent Core app. This one little line creates the main object that's going to manage this whole process for us.
Now we're getting to the heart of it. This is our asynchronous function. See that @tool decorator on top? That's how we tell the Bedrock agent, hey, this is a special capability you can use. But the real magic is inside. That line task ID equals app.add async task, that's us hitting the start button. From here, the SDK is tracking the job, and right after this line is where you'd kick off the actual work in a new thread.
And finally, the entry point. That add app.entryPoint decorator flags this as the main front door for all incoming requests. The code itself is super simple. It just grabs the user's prompt and passes it to our agent. And the agent is smart. It knows to look at the prompt, figure out that it needs to use our start_background task tool, and that's what triggers the whole async process we just built.
Phew, okay, we have covered a lot. So let's wrap this up by hitting the most important takeaways and talking about one very common pitfall that you'll definitely want to avoid.
So here are the key things to drill into your memory. 1. Async is how you keep your agent from freezing. 2. The Bedrock Agent Core SDK is your best friend here. 3. Remember your bookends. Add async task to start and complete async task to finish. 4. The /ping endpoint tells you if the agent is healthy or HealthyBusy. And 5. The golden rule. Keep your main entry point clean of blocking code.
Now let's talk about that big pitfall. If your agent is mysteriously dying after about 15 minutes, I can almost guarantee it's because that /ping health check is blocked. The solution is exactly what we've been talking about. Move that heavy work into its own separate thread. And here's a pro tip for debugging. Run it all locally, kick off a long task, and then try hitting that /ping URL in your browser. If it doesn't respond instantly, you found your problem.
And there you have it. You now have the pattern to build much more powerful, much more sophisticated AI agents. Agents that can analyze huge reports, process video, run complex simulations, all without ever freezing the user's screen. This opens up a whole new world of possibilities. So the only question is, what are you going to build?